Hey everyone, I'm D, also known as DKRO on Marvel Snap, and as you can probably tell by the title and the fact that this video is laid out notably differently, this is not a gameplay video. Today I'm going to be talking about the 6 major differences as I see them between Marvel Snap and Magic the Gathering, and what to look out for and how to change your mindset if you are coming from Magic as I did, right? So these are things that I had to learn that are probably important, and maybe like you should change how you think about them moving from Magic to Marvel Snap. Okay. So you if you're watching this, you've probably, I hope you've played Magic. You might even play Marvel Snap. So I'm not going to deep dive into like a lot of like contextual things. You probably have a background in one or both of these games, so I'm gonna take that as a starting point. We probably have a shared knowledge base. So the first thing that I want to talk about for this is basically deck synergy versus card synergy. So in Magic the Gathering, you build a deck, especially also, I guess, another disclaimer, I'm talking about modern and somewhat limited when I talk about Magic the Gathering, like sealed and draft, which doesn't apply to this game at all. But I was a modern player for the when I played competitive Magic, I played modern. That's the format that I enjoy the most. So also take that with a grain of salt. I don't know anything about standard, and I know a little about the older formats, but only secondarily. So, but in Magic, okay, back on track. In Magic, your whole deck basically is trying to do the same thing most of the time, right? There's like very few decks that are non synergistic as a whole. Like every card synergizes with every other card. It's a really like well-oiled machine of a deck. That's how you get your consistency in Magic. In Snap, it's a little different. There are decks that are like that. There are maybe less sort of what we'd call mid-range in Magic. There's sort of less mid-range decks, though they have a niche, and that niche is really important for a different video that I'll get into because I don't want to get too sidetracked here. But in Snap, you sort of have usually 2 or 3 card engines. You don't usually have a whole deck engineered towards one thing. Certainly not through pool 1, 2, and 3. The streamers, this is also a misconception because you might think that decks have to be all or nothing based on watching like a streamer or a very big YouTuber who has all the cards, but for most of your playing, you are not going to be that person. You are not going to have a deck that is all in on one strategy and only one strategy. Instead, as we have here, MTG examples, what you're usually going to do is like 2 card combos, and like very simple ones that you're going to have access to very early on is like Bucky Barnes and Carnage. That's it, right? When Bucky, oh, wait, oh my lord, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize we were too zoomed in. That's still too zoomed in. Oh no. Oh, this is a disaster. Okay, that's better. So when this card's destroyed, create the Winter Soldier, which is a 2/6. If I can click 2/6, right? Um, and so how would you destroy it? Oh, when this card enters, destroy all the other cards, and it gets, so you get a 2/4 and a 2/6, and that's it. Like literally, that's really good. A 2/4 and a 2/6 for 2 cards is it's just incredibly good. Some other examples are Storm, which floods a location, and Jessica Jones. Flood. I said I wasn't gonna do this, but I am gonna do it because I'm a pedant. Flood, you can only play cards for one turn at flooding, and then it becomes flooded, and you can't play cards anymore. And then Jessica Jones, you can only play cards here the next turn, and then the following turn you can't, and she gets +4, so she becomes a 4/8. So like Storm into Jones, you just usually win that location, and then like Leech removes all abilities from your opponent's cards, and then Leader, you copy on turn 6, you copy all their cards that they play. So the downfall to Leader is that your opponent sometimes can do cool stuff, like cool synergistic stuff, but that doesn't matter if none of the cards have any synergies because of Leech. Don't play Leech Leader. I beg you. I might play Leech Leader at some point, but I'm a bad person. Okay, so you get the idea, right? Like in Magic, you really, your whole deck is an engine. In Snap, for most of your career playing Snap, it's more going to be 2 or 3 card engines that you're going to just use, 6 of to make a deck. Okay. The second difference is the importance of curve. In Magic, especially in Modern, each card you play is just so impactful, and you don't really play cards that cost more than 4 unless they will sort of win you the game on the spot. And that's just not the case here. Your early cards are usually not very impactful in Snap, unless they do something later on. Sunspot, which isn't here, but I see him. He's here. Sunspot is a really popular one because of how often you're going to float mana, energy, that's a spoiler for a future point I'm going to make. Sunspot's really popular. Sort of. Oh, no, we're not doing that. Agent 13 is pretty popular for different reasons. Iceman, but because this can screw up their curve pretty badly. But in general, just playing a 1-drop for the stats is it's not super important. That lots of people destroy 1-drops just as part of what they're doing anyway. It's just really Killmonger's a really popular card. People want to destroy their own 1-drops, so they might destroy yours in the process. It's just not that important. It's not as important as it is in Magic. And that took me, it took me a really long time to be okay just not using 6 mana over the course of 6 turns. I'm gonna keep saying mana. It's energy. In Snap, it's energy. I'm just gonna keep saying mana, and I'm really not sorry about it. Okay. So the importance of curve is notably less in Snap, even for zoo decks or aggro decks. I don't know if you call them aggro, but zoo decks, because you can deploy 6 1-drops on turn 6 and just play the game like that. And yeah, it's just not that. Just don't stress it. Don't play Quicksilver. Just don't play. There's so few. I don't know of a deck where Quicksilver is good. I guess technically it could exist, but Quicksilver Domino, there's slightly more use cases. There's a card called Agatha that plays your deck for you, and so those are, so if you play Quicksilver and Domino, those will always be the only 1 and 2 cost cards. So you could do you could do a little better, but it's still not. They're not very good in a lot of ways. Okay, the next point is, this is also big in Hearthstone, which is another game I played, though not as much as Magic, is the idea of value and card draw. So Snap doesn't have a lot of card draw. It's mostly not on cards themselves. It's on locations that'll just draw both players' cards. But cards like this, on reveal, add a random card to your hand, or I already have them. Cable. On reveal, put the bottom card of your opponent's deck into your hand. I super duper 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 overplayed those when I started this game, because a 1/2 is a vanilla stat line in this game. 1 energy. Did you see how long it took me to not say mana? 1 energy getting you 2 power is the going rate for 1 energy cards. That's what you expect with. either a slight upside or no downside. Literally the vanilla card Misty Knight. For those of you who don't know, I said I wasn't going to do vanilla. It means there's no text on a card except for flavor text. So that's Misty Knight is considered vanilla. If Patriot would buff it in Marvel Snap, it is vanilla. Okay? That's what that means in Magic. So this you can kind of look at these as the default cards. Technically having no effect is a slight upside because of Patriot, but it's a very slight upside only in one deck. So we can kind of look at that. So, okay, like Uatu has one slight upside and no downside. So he's like a 1-2. Great. Cool. Like that's how these get figured out. Like that's how the devs figure out if something is good, too good, or not good enough. So I used to think that a 1-2 that drew you a random card was like, that's in Magic terms, that would be so value. In Hearthstone terms, that would be so value. In Snap terms, it hardly matters. Agent 13 and Cable see some play, but only in decks where your hand size matters or adding cards to your hand matters. The cards they generate, in general, you don't use. They're just there so that you still technically have 7 cards in hand at all times, including like the end of the game. But do not, if you are coming from Magic, I just wanted to include this Sig variant. It is really cool. Like, I like playing the collector deck just because I like this card art so much. But if you're coming from Magic, do not get trapped in this mindset of like, oh, this is a 2/2 that draws me a card for 2. That's buck wild. That's so good. Because you are going to end almost all your games with some to lots of cards in hand. You just are. The game ends and you have a full clutch. Unless you're like an aggro deck that's deploying a bunch of cards on the last turn, you are going to end with lots of cards in hand, and that's fine. That's how the game is. That's how it is. You're not going empty-handed very quickly. Okay. Then we have, as I spoiled before, the idea of like wasted mana, because you get 1 more energy per turn and you can't bank it like you can in like Legends of Runeterra, and there's you can't play on your opponent's turn like in Magic. You kind of, and this goes along with like Curve, you get in this habit of like, oh well, I have a 3-drop and it's turn 3, so like I should play it. Like I should play Cosmo now, or I should play Storm. But if you don't have if you have something that you want to have its on reveal happen and you need it in that location, or if you don't have a very strong Storm follow-up, you cannot. It's fine. You do not have to just curve out because you feel like you are wasting your mana. If not, like, you'll win a lot more games just letting your opponent play out their hand a little bit more to get a better idea. And on the flip side, if you're quite good or your opponent has telegraphed something, a really good example is, and this has happened in my videos. I'll play a Bucky Barnes and my opponent will play armor into that lane because there's only one thing I can be doing if I played a Bucky Barnes, and that's destroying it. And armor prevents that. So that is, I mean, that even really speaks to my point. Like I told them what I was doing on turn 2, and then like on turn 3, even though they could have done this on 2, they just waited, and then they got me, and then I had to instantly concede because I couldn't, because I have a 2/1 that I can't destroy ever. So don't worry about quote unquote, I don't have a VTuber that has the quotes yet, like, so just imagine it, wasting your mana. It's not, you're not wasting it. It's better to wait a lot of the time. Okay. The 5th point is retreating versus losing. And so again, in Magic, pretty often you will just play it out because there's a chance you'll win. Like, your opponent could technically hit like 3 lands in a row and sort of you're back in the game if you hit gas and they're just like kind of flooding out, even if they're in a much advantageous position. it's not worth it to just finish a game out in Snap, because you lose twice as much elo cubes if you let the game actually finish out. If you don't know, I'm not sure who I'm speaking to if this is the case, but you earn 1 cube for a win or loss on turn 1 through 5. You earn or lose 1 cube based on winning or losing. It doubles on turn 6. So if you go into turn 6 and finish the game out, you actually lose 2 cubes. And sometimes it's worth it. Like, you're like, we're both kind of just dirtling around. Neither of us has really like executed our game plan. I might win, but pretty often it isn't worth it to just see it out to the end in a way that it is in Magic. There's very few times in Magic where you are sort of just dead and it doesn't make sense to to concede and go to the next game. Usually only when you're under timers. So like at a big event, you might do that because you think you can win 2 out of 3 games as long as you have enough time. Online, you might do that. MTGO uses like a chess clock, so you might concede to stay up on that chess clock. But in Snap, you want to retreat way more than you do in Magic. And that's like very hard to get used to. I'm still really bad at it. Again, if you watch my videos, you know this. And then the final one, which again this sort of leads into this point, is the idea of like the epic comeback, or as I call it, the shonen hero mentality, which is like, you want to be the hero. You are the hero of your own story. We all are. We can't help it. It's not even really something we should help, right? Like it's good. It's good to feel that way. It feels nice. But you in this game will very often get into a position where you're behind. You're behind probably in 2 lanes. You're going into turn 6 and you just draw your best card. You draw the card that your whole deck is based around. And you're like, this is it. This is the moment. I can make this epic comeback. Because, in Magic, you can do that. Like, you can top deck the right card. You're like, I'm way behind, but here it is. I have the perfect card that brings my whole deck together. And you're just not considering the fact that, like, your opponent is ahead and could have the same kind of card in their hand, and statistically probably does, especially if they snapped already. And you're just going to lose a lot of cubes. If you're not in an advantageous position, or especially a sneakily advantageous position, because this is more a Snap thing that doesn't really relate to Magic, so I'm going to cover it in depth in a different video. But in Snap, pretending that you're going to lose or underplaying your hand is better for your overall cube rate in a lot of ways. Or decks that can be sneaky in that way, which is what I was talking about with mid-range and what I'm not going to go into depth right now with. If you can pretend to be weak, and make like those epic comebacks, awesome. But if you're not pretending and you just sort of stumble into a good card on turn 6 or a good set of cards, your opponent is probably still going to win in a lot of cases. And that's okay. You should just retreat. But getting stuck in that, like, that believe it, I can't lose mindset is gonna cost you dearly. And in Magic, it's a little, like I say, in Magic, I think that happens quite a bit more. The amount of times that you have been sitting across from an opponent and you're like, if I top deck this card, like if this is it, this draw is what matters. Do I get it? And you do, and you're just like, all right, cool, we're in it. We got this. Like, we can turn the game. Usually it's not like the last turn, because there is a defined last turn in Snap in the way there's not in Magic. But yeah, that feeling is going to get you in trouble. Be hyper aware of it and try to avoid being a shonen protagonist. Be like me. Embrace being a villain. There's a big reveal coming in my next climbing video that I look forward to showing you. That's it. Those are the big 6 for me that were very difficult to understand and sort of work around in my head. If I missed anything, you should let me know in the comments. If you are also an ex Magic or current Magic player that just happens to also play Snap, what are some things that you struggle with as differences? I'd love to hear. Again, I view gaming as a completely collaborative effort for the most amount of people to have fun, and I just love talking about this type of stuff. So comment down below. I'm gonna hide my little. There we go. I'm still back here. So it was distracting me. Comment down below. Leave a like and leave a subscribe. We're almost at our goal of 10 subscribers. We're at 8 already. It's been less than a week. I'm averaging 1 a day. If I can get to 365 by the end of the year, I'd be ecstatic. But we dream big here. Thank you all for watching. Again, it just means so much. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. I'm gonna start streaming on Twitch. I don't have the link yet because I haven't set it up, but I've been told that this type of content is like pretty big over there, which weirded me out because last time I was on Twitch was like 8 years ago and it was all screamy like video game boys, and I'm not any of those things. Video game, I guess. But thank you all. I'm rambling. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Goodbye.